began to shine.
From taking little footsteps, we began to climb.
Near or far, we have reached across summer.
From Balogan, Mercedes, Bananas and Pasay. From our halls, we walk their aisles.
Achievements and awards now implies. Join us and we'll show you the greatness of SSU. Summer State University, soaring high with excellence. Seed of innovation, we'll build and serve the nation. Summer State University, it's the best for you and me. Your future and dreams come alive. So come on to Summer State University.
Summer State University.
So come on, Summer State University.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the webinar on writing and packaging research articles for journal publication. We are now at the 6th session of this webinar series, and in behalf of Summer State University, I would like to express our big thanks to everyone for being with us since day one. My name is Hannah Makawili, and I will be your moderator for today. Now, to put things in place, let us first check our audio and video. If you can hear and see me well, type yes and send it here in our Zoom chat box. Thank you for your responses. Now that the technicals are all set, I have a few reminders before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please share them here in our Zoom chat box and I will bring them up later at the open forum. Next, the link of the attendance will be uploaded here in the chat box later after the lecture. Also, the session evaluation, quiz, and the activities that will be given by our speaker and facilitators will be emailed to you. Finally, we are now live at the official YouTube channel of Summer State University. So we are encouraging you to share today's webinar with your social networks. Now, let us begin. The session will be all about writing abstract and submitting to publication. But first, to give a recap and presentation of previous session's evaluation results, let us welcome Ms. Frances I. Kaaga, Secretary to the Dean of the SSU Graduate School.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am tasked to present a brief recapitulation of the topics and will share to you the evaluation results of the 5th session of the webinar held last Friday. The Executive Director for Research, Dr. Sherry Ann Labid, discussed on choosing the data and writing the results. May I commend first Dr. Labid for exerted much effort and time to present the topics comprehensively to the participants. Thank you very much, ma'am. She started giving the objectives to be met and followed by discussing on how to choose data. In starting her discussion in choosing the data, she compared research article to a thesis for the participants to avoid misperception of these two. Next up, she tackled on what to do in choosing the data by also giving some illustrations. The second topic given was on writing results. results. She started with a review on the IMRAD structure and explicitly discussed on what the researcher should know and should do on the results section by also giving illustrations and examples. And lastly, she shared on the suggested flow of results section in social science or health and clinical studies. Along with the evaluation results, this is according to the highest responses. 62.5% responded that the resource speaker displayed mastery of the subject matter. 87.5% responded that the efforts were made to relate the topic to real-life situations or applications. 56.3% responded that the contents of the materials presented are relevant, up-to-date, accurate, and error-free. 68.8% responded that an extra effort was exerted to satisfy the special queries of participants during the open forum portion. And lastly, 68.8% responded that the pace of the webinar session was satisfactory. There were comments and a suggestion which the participants have said that the topics were very informative and great, relevant and organized, very useful and helpful to their study. Others also commented that they hope to learn more about research, that the lecturer is a good speaker, that the presenter is very well prepared in presenting her topic, which helped them a lot to apply those learnings and ideas in their master's thesis. Also suggested that the speaker should be able to address the questions of researchers in either orientation, quantitative or qualitative. And lastly, the webinar host and the resource speaker are very accommodating. That will be all. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you so much, Ms. Frances I. Kaaga, Secretary to the Dean of the SSU Graduate School. Now, to introduce our speaker for this session is Ms. Maria Jessa Pacama of the University Publications.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am greatly honored to present to you our speaker this afternoon. He is a Doctor of Education in Educational Administration and at present, the Director of Publications and an Executive Assistant 3. He is also the Deputy Quality Management Representative of the President's Office. Despite his hectic schedule, his love for research paves its way, earning him awards in research such as Best Paper on the 5th Visayas Congress of Human Resource Management Practitioners and the Best Presenter in Social Sciences and Education in an international conference. Research has become his cup of tea, being the reason why he was able to co-author a book on Study and Thinking Skills 1, A Practical Approach, and publish papers on journals. He also became the managing editor of the CDRJ. He presented in international conferences staged by known universities in Asia like the National University of Singapore and Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Dr. Redentor S. Valencia.
Hello, test mic. Okay, thank you so much. Technical glitch. I would like to start my presentation this afternoon with giving recognition to the president of the university, Dr. Marilyn D. Cardoso. Hi, ma'am. Good afternoon. To the vice president for research and extension, Dr. Ronald Orale, and to the managing editor, to the editor-in-chief of the Countryside Development Research Journal, Dr. Eudoro Labrague. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us in this series of webinar. And also to the Dean of the Graduate School, Dr. Esteban A. Malindog. Good afternoon po, sir. To all participants in this webinar series, this is the 6th day. So welcome, and I hope you will learn and you will enjoy from my presentation. This afternoon, I am tasked to present to you or to give you some inputs on how are we going to write our abstract. This webinar is intended for the graduate school, especially those who are writing their thesis and their dissertation, and those who are planning for publication, publishing their paper in referee journals. So I'm going to share with you this afternoon on how are we going to write an abstract, and then what are the movements that we need to consider in writing an abstract. So we start with the presentation of my outline for this afternoon's talk. Okay, so here's my outline, ladies and gentlemen. The first one, of course, is the definition of an abstract. Now, what is it? How do we define abstract? So what I did was I consulted different experts when it comes to the definition of an abstract. And you will see later, based on the presentation, that these authorities have the same definition, same keywords. Okay, I'm going to share it to you later. Another thing that I'm going to discuss this afternoon is the characteristics of an abstract. Okay, now the abstract would vary depending on a study or a specific study. So an abstract for an empirical study is different to that an abstract of methodological research or an abstract theory-grounded study, or it's different to that of a case study. Okay, so characteristics of an abstract based on the different studies. Another one we have on my outline is the description of abstract based on different studies. And of course, we have the general movements in writing an abstract. So this is the most important part of the talk, because in here, in the general movements in writing an abstract, you will be, I will introduce to you a form of how are we going to write an abstract with using a certain criteria or a certain movement on writing our abstract. And of course, I will be ending my presentation with a sort of a takeaway. Now, when we say takeaway, parang this will really summarize my talk, parang a take-home message about our topic this afternoon. It's on writing abstract and how are we going to submitting our papers for publication. Okay, so we get started with the first in our outline. The first thing in our outline is the definition of an abstract. Here is it. So in every slide that I have, for you to refer, okay, I always include there the reference, okay? So you can take picture and you can refer on this reference there at the lower part of the presentation, of each presentation. You would notice that each slide has the reference, okay, for you to refer into. Okay, the first definition, ladies and gentlemen, is coming from the publication manual of the American Psychological Association. It says, okay, based on the definition, an abstract is a brief, comprehensive summary of the contents of the article. Let's take a look into the keywords. So the keyword there is brief. Okay, although it is brief, take note that brief but comprehensive. Okay, so to continue with the definition, an abstract based on the publication manual of American Psychological Association, it allows readers to survey the contents of an article quickly. You have to notice that our abstract is the second part of the paper after your title. So the title of your paper will be the eye opener, and then the next thing to that will be the abstract. Okay, and this is what we are talking this afternoon. Okay, so if they are really interested just by reading your title, and then the title catches their attention, then they will definitely read your abstract. Now, be sure that when you write your abstract, you are able to ace it in writing so that they have the interests of reading your abstract from of reading your paper from A to Z. So your abstract is, for me, parang it's a show window of your paper. Okay? So like the title, it enables persons interested in the document to retrieve it from abstracting and indexing databases. So through your abstract, since you will be giving their entries like keywords that will be useful in search engines, then it is very necessary that when you write your abstract, be sure that you are going to input the accurate data or data. Okay, so that's it. Let's go to the next definition. So take a note. So the first definition says it's brief, comprehensive, and summary of the contents of the article. Another definition is taken from Wallen. It says the abstract is a brief summary of the entire research paper. So you would notice on the previous definition that I have given you from the publication manual of the APA, it mentioned brief, the word brief summary. So just like Frankel and Wallen, they also mentioned brief summary. So the keyword really here, an abstract is a brief summary of the entire research paper. Uh, can you just imagine if your dissertation is up to 200 pages, you are going to condense it into 200 words, 250 words, depending on the journal you are interested in submitting. Okay, so brief summary of the entire research paper. So we already have the keyword. So the keyword here is a brief summary, brief but comprehensive of the entire research paper. Let's move on to the next definition. Okay, let us see. So here's another definition from a Filipino author. This is writing it with confidence. Now, the definition says an abstract is a brief summary of the report. Still the same word, same keywords that has been given. The word is brief, and then another word that has been mentioned is summary. So here is an additional definition from Bago. It says it provides the reader an overview of the study. Okay, so when we see an overview, it is somewhat a show window. Okay, parang a glimpse of the whole study. Okay, so we have definitions from the APA, from Frankel Wallen. We have from Bago. Let's move on to the next definition here. So here. So we ended up there, okay, with the definition. So coming up when it comes to our first outline on the definition of an abstract, it is a brief but comprehensive summary of your whole paper. Other author says it is an overview of your whole paper. So sa abstract pa lang, dapat talaga maganda na ang ating pagkakasulat. Okay, so that's it. Let us now move on to our next outline. The next outline would be the characteristics of an abstract. Okay, so let's take a look with these characteristics. Okay, let's take a look with the characteristic. Okay, it says here, a good abstract is accurate. We know what do we mean when we say accurate. We mean exact. So accurate, this is to ensure that the abstract correctly reflect the purpose and content of the manuscript. Okay, so it says also that you do not include information that does not appear in the body of the manuscript. Of course, what they have seen in your abstract, they will really look into it, the details of it would really be scrutinized in the paper, the whole paper. So that's it. So what is important? Your abstract should be accurate, exact. Okay. So if I were you, you have to double check, okay, from spelling, okay, spelling, correct names, and then we have, especially with the data, okay, and with your statistics, and then with your, let us say, statistics that you have used or the analytics that you have used, you really have to be accurate. Okay, so accurate is number one. Let us proceed to the next characteristic of a good abstract. Number two is non-evaluative. Okay, now what do we mean in here when we say it's non-evaluative? Non-evaluative because you are going to report, okay, objectively rather than evaluate, because the evaluation will be done along the results and discussion. So report just as is, and then do not add or comment on what is in the body of the manuscript. Okay, so do not add or comment on what is in the body of the manuscript. So it's non-evaluative. So you will not mention in here your, you will not evaluate rather, but rather you will report what has transpired in the paper. Okay, let's now move on to the next. So we have the first characteristic, accuracy. The other one is it should be non-evaluative. Okay, what do you think is next? The next one here is, of course, coherent and readable. The word alone, the key word coherent, would mean to say that it is logical, unified. As mentioned before, what is written in the abstract should be found in the texts. So, hindi pwedeng wala sa abstract, okay? Tapos nandyan sa abstract pero hindi natin makikita sa manuscript. Okay? So, coherent and readable. Okay, so what does it mean when we say coherent and readable in this? No, so we say write in clear and concise language. Okay, when we say concise, it would mean to say that you are going to write it briefly but comprehensively. Okay, the shortest way, but it has the total package as it is. Okay, so use verbs, use active verbs rather than use verbs rather than their noun equivalents, and the active rather than the passive voice. Okay, so let us have a little discussion on the active voice and the passive voice of the verb. Okay, so it's very important that you know that active verb, it would mean to say that basically its active voice means that the subject in a sentence is the doer of the action, and where when you say passive voice, it would mean to say that the subject is the receiver of an action. Okay, so preferably in writing your abstract, write in the active voice of the verb. Okay, you say, for example, results reveal that. Okay, so active voice of the verb. Now, when do we use the passive voice of the verb? Of course, if the subject is not determined. Okay, for example, you say the authors presented the result, that is active voice. Okay, but then results are presented. Okay, that is the passive voice of the verb. Now, in this case, we don't have any point to write it in the second part. You cannot say making result as your main, what do you call that, as the doer of an action, because Of course, it cannot do an action. So that's the way wherein we cannot write it in the passive voice. Okay, so that's it. Coherent and readable. That's another characteristic. Okay, let's move on to the next characteristic. Of course, it's concise. Okay, it has been explained before. So when we say concise means brief, okay? And make each sentence maximally informative, especially the lead sentence, okay? In some other books or in some other style sheets, they give you what we call the stem sentence. Now, that stem sentence or the lead sentence, other books would call that one as a lead sentence. Other would call that one as a stem sentence. Now, these stem sentences and lead sentences, they will give sort of a gambit or an introductory word that will give you a hint that this part is the data analytic part, that this part is the methodology part, that this part is the result part. Okay, so it depends. So that's it. Begin the abstract with the most important points. Okay. Later on, I will discuss. It will be included in my presentation on the movements and how are we going to write the abstract. Although in the movement, some of the what do you call that parts may be missing because as I told you, it depends on the paper that you are writing, which is part of the lecture. Okay. Do not waste space by repeating the title. Now, the reference that I refer to in this presentation, the first part of the movement of the abstract uses the title, but it's optional. Okay, so others would not have, they will not repeat the title in the beginning of their abstract. Okay, they start with the rationale initially. Okay, so let's move on to the next characteristic. So we start with being accurate, coherent and clear and readable, then concise. Okay, more on concise, just to elaborate the explanation. So when we say concise, what we need to have here is we need to include in the abstract only the 4 or 5 most important concepts. Now, in the movements that I will be presenting, I have 9. But in the examples, in the example that I'm going to present to you, we'll have only about 5. But at least the 5 important signposts, at least the 5 important signposts of an abstract are presented. What are these? We have the concept, okay, the findings, the implications, the methodology. We'll go for the arrangement. Then use the specific words in your abstract that you think your audience will use in their electronic searches. This is what I had mentioned a while ago. When I discussed accuracy, okay, why? Because they will be using keywords, okay, in searching in their search engines. Okay, so makakita nila when pag nakita nila ang keyword, okay, na ito, then punta sila kaagad sa search engines to search nila kaagad. Okay, so that's it. So concise. Also, so those. So we are done with our second outline. Part of the outline I mean. So we're done with the what do you call that? We're done with our definition, and then we're done with our characteristics. Basically, the characteristic of an outline, very easy, should be accurate, it should be concise, it should be coherent, and of course, readable. Now, let us now move on to the next part of our talk. Now, this part of the topic would be on how is abstract written depending on the paper. Okay, So we start with this. Okay, how does an abstract look like for a paper of an empirical study? Okay, so in the manual of publication manual of the American Psychological Association, now it pointed several characteristics, uh, several what do you call it? Things that would be in place in your abstract. So if your paper is an empirical study, then we have the following things that should be included in your abstract. Okay, on the other side of the slide, you have there an example, an exemplar. I will give you the references on the later part. Okay, okay. So we have if you are writing if your paper is an empirical study, then your abstract should have this. Number one, the problem under its investigation. Okay. Another one, you need to include the participants. Okay. You have to specify their uh, characteristics such as age, sex, ethnic and racial group, and all. Okay. So if you are going to view, okay, you can see it on the screen, the part of an example of the abstract of an empirical study, you would notice that all the characteristics mentioned here in the APA are there. So the problem under investigation is there. Okay, it's about the end-stage renal disease or the ESRD. Okay, and then also noted there that those in red, okay, is the problem. It's your guide. That's why it's colored. The approach and design are in blue, okay, colors. And the result are in green. Okay, so that's it. And the last part, the black one, we have here the implication. Okay, so take a look. Okay, so nakakulay na po siya to be guided. Okay. So when it comes to participants, characteristics such as age, ethnic, it's already stated there. Okay. So we have 433 ESRD patients. Okay. And then we have the results in green. And of course, the implication and the conclusion, I mean, at the last part. Okay, so that's for an empirical study. Okay, another thing that we need to include if our paper is an empirical study, okay, so take note of the essential features, okay, essential features of the study. Okay, particularly those, okay, that readers would look into the search engines. Okay, just like here. So when you have to mention there the end stage renal disease, okay, you have to be very particular the accuracy of the term. Okay, so in writing, when it comes to writing acronym, it should be presented first, the spell out, and then the acronym will follow. Okay, so that's it. Remember that in this part of the paper, your abstract, you have a limited number of words, so you have to restrict your description. Okay, so we have to remember that we need not to be verbose, okay, or we need not to be wordy in our abstract. But ang sabi natin kanina, it should be concise. Okay, so that's why we are advised really to use a specific a word that would really speak of or appropriate word that should be presented. Okay, so that's it for empirical study. So these are the things that would be included in the abstract if you are writing an empirical study. Okay, let's move to the next. Okay. Another discussion points if your paper is an empirical study. Take note that the take note of the basic findings. So looking into the example, the findings are presented, okay? Including what do you call that? Including the sizes, confidence of intervals, and as uh, specified there in the example, you would notice that it said the major outcomes measure was death while on dialysis therapy. Clinical manifestation of cardiovascular disease were highly prevalent at the start of the ESRD therapy, and then it gives percentages. Okay. And of course, if you are writing or if your paper is an empirical study, of course, you have to give a conclusion at the last part. At the example given, the, the conclusion is a one-liner example, okay, one-liner. So we conclude that clinical and echocardiographic cardiovascular disease are really very technical. They are already present in a very high proportion of patients starting ESRD therapy and then independent morality factors. Okay, so that's for empirical study data. Let's move on to the next. Here, yeah, here is the example, the whole thing of that. Okay, so the reference is given. You can also refer to that. Okay, so let's go to the next example. Another characteristic of an abstract based on a certain paper. Okay, what if our paper is a literature review or meta-analysis? Okay, how does an abstract would look like if you have this kind of paper? Okay, so take note of the areas that you need to consider if you are writing a literature review or meta-analysis paper. So take note of number one, the problem or relations under investigation. And then the other one is the study eligibility criteria. Now, what do we mean here when we say study eligibility criteria? Now, it would mean here, what are the protocols that are being observed in the conduct of the study? So it should really be mentioned there. Okay, so study eligibility criteria. Study eligibility criteria would depend on the study that you are conducting. So say, for example, if that is a case study, it has its own study eligibility criteria because it has a different process than that of an empirical study or empirical research. So study eligibility criteria refers to the protocols being observed in the conduct of a specific study. Okay, so take note of that. Another one, we have types of participation included in the primary study. Okay, so you will notice in the example that that is given. So we have the literature reviews are set in red. Okay, then the specific span of topics is in blue. And of course, the implication of the literature review on that specific study or on that specific abstract is written in green. Okay, so that's it. You would notice that conclusions and what do you call that? Arguments or the questions, the research questions, some of them really are a one-liner in an abstract. Okay, it is advised to have a one-liner, but other parts of the abstract like analysis, sometimes they do not go into a one-liner presentation. Okay, later it will be discussed on the movements on writing of an abstract. Okay, another thing that we need to consider in writing our abstract if we are writing a literature, if our paper, I mean, is a literature review or meta-analysis, you take note of the main results, okay? Including the most important part or the important effects of it, okay? And then we have here, of course, you need to include in your conclusion. In the conclusion, you have to include the limitations, okay? And then try to include the implication for the theory or policy of a certain practice. Okay, so that is an abstract for a literature review or meta-analysis studies. Okay, so we're down with two. We're done with the empirical. Then we are done with the literature review or meta-analysis. Okay, here is the example that was presented to you. Okay, so this purpose and scope of the literature review set in red, and then the specific content topics, okay, is set in blue, and then the green is your conclusion. Okay, your conclusion. Of course, this is just for presentation for the sake or for the sake of the presentation. These abstracts are not colored in their actual. Okay? Just for the sake of the presentation. Hangin, baka lagyan ninyo ng color ang ating mga abstract, of course. Okay, let's proceed to the next. An abstract for theory-oriented paper. Okay, how would it look like? Or what are the things that we need to consider? Or what are the things that we need to look into if we are writing or if your paper is a theory-oriented paper? Okay, so take note how the theory or model works. Somebody's microphone is on. And then what phenomena the theory is presenting, and the accounts and linkages. Okay. So here is an example given. Okay. Okay. And what phenomena the theory or model accounts for linkages to empirical results. Okay. Take note of that. Okay. Another thing that we need to consider here, okay, if your paper is a theory-oriented paper, okay, what phenomena the theory or model accounts for? It's done. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, so here is an example, okay, of the theory-oriented evaluation for the design of the research and time related. You can take note of the phenomena presented, what phenomena the theory or model accounts for, and linkages to empirical results. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next. What about if we are writing a methodological paper? What are the things that we need to look into? One thing here is the other thing that the general class or methods presented or discussed. Another thing here is we have the essential features of the proposed method. Okay, so that's it. If you are your paper is methodological, so you would notice your abstract would depend on the paper that you are writing. Okay, so that's it. Of course, here, if you are using methodological paper, you are going to point out some persons. Okay. Okay. And of course, you also need to take note of the range of application of the proposed method. Okay. The range of application of the proposed method. And of course, you have to look into also the case statistical procedures, some of its essential features, such as the robustness, power, efficiency of the statistical procedures that you have uh, used in your paper. Okay, that is for methodological paper. Okay, so here is an example, or here is an abstract, okay, of methodological paper. Okay, take note. We have to take note of the range of applications, okay, of the proposed method, and then the case of when it comes to the statistical procedures, take note of the essential features that will describe the robustness or the efficiency of the statistics that you have used or you have utilized in your paper. Okay, so that's it. Okay, I think we can move on to this paper. This one is a case study, a form of qualitative research. So what if our paper is a qualitative study? So what are the things that you need to look into? What are the features of the abstract? Okay, so we have following features. Number one, we have the subject and relevant characteristics. Okay, the group, you have to describe the individual, the group, the community, the organization that you have or that you are presenting. Another one, the nature of or solution to problems illustrated in the case example. Okay, so what's the problem? Okay, and then what would be the solution of the problem present in the paper? Now, first, we have to look into also the questions raised for additional research or theory. Okay, the questions raised for additional research or theory. Later on, here is an example of that paper. Okay, okay. So this one is a paper on water quality investigation. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so those are the different features of abstract based on a specific paper. So what has been presented this afternoon, we have abstract for empirical study, abstract for literature review, abstract for case study as this one, abstract for what do you call that? A methodological study. Okay. Now, as I said, your abstract would vary depending on the paper that you are writing, the paper that you are submitting for publication. Okay, let us move to the next outline number 4 of our presentation this afternoon. So that would be what are the general movements of writing of an abstract? Okay, what are the things that we need to consider when we write our respective abstract? So I have referred to a certain university abroad, and that is the Walden University. I have visited their primer on how students, graduate students, write their abstract. Okay. Of course, uh, references also. The site will be given to you per slide. Okay, so we start with this. Okay, elements of writing our abstract. Okay, guidelines. Now, each area, as I mentioned a while ago, each area usually needs one sentence, a one-liner, except for methodology and except for wait, except for methodology, except for results, which may take a few sentences. Okay, so we start with number 1. Okay, background or the general introduction of the issue. But sometimes, most of the time, this one is always optional. Okay, abstract may begin with the research problem. Okay, so it's optional. Okay, you may not. Some other books would say need not to mention the title at the beginning of the abstract. So it depends. So for them, it's optional. You may or you may not. Okay, so that's it. Uh, Later on, after the discussion of each part, uh, we will have an exercise. Okay, and we have to take note of the parts. Okay, okay, so that you will always be guided. Okay, yeah. So let's go to the next movement. That's number 2. We have research problem and why is it important? So how do we write our research problem in our abstract? Now, in the presentation, when we say research, when we present our research problem and in our abstract, make sure that you are going to state it clearly. Okay, and then in writing your research problem in your abstract based on the Walden University guidelines, they have 2 approaches, which we can also refer. Okay, we can also use. Now, the approaches are the direct approach, and the other one is the indirect approach. Okay, so I'll give you an example when we have the direct approach and the indirect approach in what do you call that? In giving or in presenting our research problem in the abstract. Here is an example. Okay, so that example, okay, letters or text in green is the research problem. Okay, the research problem. Okay, so in that example, you would notice that the succeeding sentences, okay, succeeding sentences, they are details on the gaps of the paper, and they are parang explaining on the research problem. And that kind of approach in writing the research problem is what we call the direct approach, wherein you would notice the stem sentence start with the study was an investigation. Okay? So immediately you would know what is the research problem of the paper. And the succeeding, what do you call that? The succeeding sentences would be the explanation of the rationale of the study and of course the explaining the gap. Okay, so if we have the direct approach, okay, what is the other approach? Of course, we have the direct, but we have also the indirect approach. Now, this one is the other way around. If in the direct approach, we immediately give the research problem, but here it's a different style. It's indirect approach. First, you are going to establish first, okay, the rationale and give the details on the gap of the paper. And at the end part, the concluding part, not the concluding, the end part of that part should be the statement of your research problem. Okay, so we go back. So in the research problem, in the presentation of our research problem in the abstract, we can use 2 approaches. We can have the direct approach, wherein immediately the first liner, the stem sentence or the lead sentence will immediately tell, okay, or specify the research problem. The succeeding sentences would be the explanation on the details, speaking of the rationale and the gap. Okay, that's for the direct. And then for the indirect, we have first established the details, okay, and then ending it with the study. Okay, like you say, accordingly, this study was an investigation and so on and so forth. Okay, so that is for the research problem. Okay, so again, in presenting our research problem, we can utilize, we can employ two approaches, the direct and the direct approach. Okay, so that's it. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Oh yeah, here. Purpose or the rationale. Okay, one-liner. Okay, one-liner rationale or one-liner purpose. But some abstracts would not mention this anymore to avoid redundancy. So what do we do here? The purpose of the or rationale is embedded or a part of the or the research question presented. Okay, so the purpose or the rationale. And then number four, the number four movement, we have the theoretical foundations. Okay, of course, again, theoretical foundation would only be applicable if it depends on your paper. So if your paper is qualitative, like just case study wherein no anchors for a theoretical foundation, you may, instead of giving the theoretical foundation or the theoretical framework, you can describe or you can explain the conceptual framework of the study, okay, if appropriate. Okay, so that's it. That's number four. Okay, so we go back just to review. And then number five, we have the research question or the RQs, guiding question. Present these as statements, of course, not the question. Okay, so what do we do here would be, in here, we are going to present these statements. Of course, in the abstract, you will not present it in question, but rather it should not be presented in interrogative manner, but it should be presented declaratively. So it would mean that you're going to use a declarative sentence for that matter. Okay. And number six, of course, we have the methodology and overall design of your paper. Okay. So you might have, you may, I think, have two or three sentences for that matter. Methodology and overall design. Now, in the methodology and the overall design, you may discuss here. You may start in the Walden University capstone documents. They are saying that you may use or you may mention immediately if that is a qualitative paper or a quantitative paper, and then discussions will follow through. Okay, so you can just say simply stating a qualitative design and then a quantitative design. As we all know, we have to define the design that we are using, if that is cross-sectional, if that is quasi-experimental or a correlation study, but it will be done later at the last part in detail of the paper. Okay, so that's it. Now, the questions would on methodology and overall design. What if your paper is using a mixed method? Now here, experts would say that if you are writing a mixed method, a combination of qualitative and quantitative, it depends if that is triangulation, that's 50-50. And if that is explanatory, more a quantitative, less of a qualitative, and more, if that is more of a qualitative, less of a quantitative, that's exploratory. So that's it. So the question now here, how are we going to present the methodology in the abstract if we are using the mixed method? So if you are using the mixed method, in your abstract, you should uh, tailor it if the kind of presentation in your paper. So what do I mean here? If you have started first with the quantitative, then followed by the qualitative, then that should be the presentation in your abstract. Now, for it to be consistent, okay, for it to be consistent all throughout your text, okay. So, of course, in your methodology and the overall design, you have to include there the sample size, of course, the eligibility criteria, okay, and so on. You have to include there the sampling, the grouping, the participants, the procedures, the treatments, excuse me, the interventions that you have done, and of course the instruments that you have utilized. Okay, that's for movement number 6. Again, you may have uh, uh, you may have 2 or 3 sentences for this. Okay, unlike any other parts like the research questions and the rationale, you can, and the conclusions, and then the implication for social change, you can have a one-liner statement. Okay, but for methodology and results, because you really have to elaborate those 2 parts, then you really have to uh, give the, what do you call that, the exact data for that matter. Okay, so we are done with number 6. Now we move on to this one. Number 7, we have here the data analytic procedure. Okay, how the data are analyzed. So what are the statistical treatment that you have used? Okay, so in here, you're going to mention here the key measures and the statistical analysis that you have done. Okay. Now, of course, if you have done, what do you call that? If you have done the qualitative, qualitative study, you have to mention here the coding, okay? Uh, the coding, the analysis that you have used. But then it is also advised that in that primer, Walden University, that the software that you are using should never be mentioned in the abstract. So if you have used NVivo, the SPSS, no need to mention in your abstract. Okay, it will be mentioned in the detailed part of your paper. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so data analytic procedures. And then number 8, we have the key results, the conclusions. Okay, of course for final paper only. And then ensure alignment with the purpose. So what do we mean here with the RQs? So be sure that your key result would be, or your conclusion would be, the answer now of your RQs, your research question. So, so the cue here is alignment. So you have to align, okay? Align your conclusion and then your research question. Kumbaga, dapat ma-answeran mo na ang research question sa part na ito. It could also have the, what do you call that? The conclusions are the recommendations. Okay, so we are on the 8th, what do you call that? Guidelines or movement. Now we move on to the last. Again, other books, they have 5 important parts only. Okay, but this one, it's 8 or 9, I mean. The last one here is very important. Okay, implication for positive social change. What's the implication of the study? Specify who benefits from the research and in what ways they would benefit. Okay, imagine the key word here is the social change. What would be the contribution of your paper to the body of knowledge, and how would it help the society? Okay, So implication for positive social change. Okay. So that's it for our guidelines. Okay. The elements of the abstract guidelines. So we have to review. We start with optional again with the research problem. If you can start with the research problem. Okay. So background. Okay. And then the general introduction of the issue. Okay, if you have really that uh, you have to remember that your the number of words is counted in your abstract depending on the journal that you are submitting. Others, okay, generally they would prefer that your abstract be written within 250 words or 200 words. Others will have it 300, but the average is 250 or most really would have let you write for 200 words. Okay, so going back to the movements or the guidelines, we have the background. Okay, number two, we have the research problem. Okay, and the research problem, it's stated clearly. Okay, so again, as I have explained, that the presentation of the research problem could be done direct approach, or it could be done by an indirect approach. Then the next part would be the purpose of ration and rationale. Again, sometimes this one is embedded in the research question to avoid redundancy. Okay, and then you should not forget to write in your abstract your theoretical framework or your theoretical foundations. If you're writing a qualitative paper, you may write the conceptual framework of your paper. Okay, that is for number four. And then the next movement will follow would be the research questions or your RQ. Okay, okay, so research questions or your RQ. And then we have number six, the methodology and the overall design of your paper. If your research design is qualitative or quantitative. Okay. Also, in this part, you are going to include the sampling procedure, participants, grouping, and then instruments, procedures, interventions, and the treatments that you have used in your paper. Okay. And then also in the uh, data analytics, that's number seven movement or number seven guideline. Take note of the key measures. Do not forget, this is really very important. The key measures and statistical analysis. Okay. If you are using, if you are, your paper is qualitative, okay, so you have to describe the coding, but no need to mention the software that you have used like NVivo, SPSS, and so on. Again, in the presentation of your data analytics or data analytic procedure, if you are using a mixed method, be consistent also with the way it is presented in the paper. If you start with the quantitative, then qualitative part will follow. It will also follow through in your abstract. Okay, in your abstract. Okay, and then if we're done with our data analytic procedures, we now have the key results. Okay, result recommendation. What is important here is your key result, your conclusions, or your recommendation should already answer your RQ or your research question. Okay, take note of these two things, dear ladies and gentlemen, that alignment of your key result of your key results and conclusion should be in answer of your RQ. Of course, your RQs again should be stated not interrogatively, but declaratively. Okay, and number nine, of course, we have the implications for positive social change of the paper. Okay, who will benefit, and what would be the contribution of this paper to the community, or what purpose for social change. Okay, so those are the abstract guidelines I have presented to you. I have presented to you 9 based on the primer presented by the Walden University uh, capstone document writing. Okay, so I think we are ready. Just in your uh, you are ready for the exercise. Okay, pwede na siguro hayo na lang mga ano. Here, I have here a sample of an abstract. Okay, this is a case study. Okay, this is a case study, and then we have here. If I have presented 9, okay, I have there 5. Okay, so all we have to do is, if this is a test, we are going to put the number for each. For example, if number 1, that the first entry that says the research questions examine participants' perception, would it be number 4? Would it be number 3? So you have to label it with numbers. Okay. So what item would be number 1? Okay. What would be number 3? What would be number 4? What would be number 5? And what would be number 6? Depending on your, no, not depending, based on your analysis, I mean. Okay. So based on your analysis. So I have here 6 there, parts or guidelines. Let us just try. Any try from our participants? You can just say that is 4, 3, 5, 1, or like that. You can give your answer if you are interested. Sige daw, may I from our participants? So which one should be number 1? Which one should be number 2? Which one should be number 3? Okay, I have a volunteer from our participants. Okay, participants, we have 40 participants here. Okay, so wala. Okay, so let us participant. So can I call Nessie K? Okay, the number arrangement. Would you like to try? Here, Sir Alfonso is here with us. Ma'am Antonieta Jacob, can we have a try? Ariel Domingo. We have Celeste D. Assis. Hannah, can we have a try here? Okay. So take a note. So we have here elements on the other side. Okay. Which one there is it would specify the research problem and why is it important? What do you think there in that part is stating the purpose or the rationale? And then the theoretical foundations. What do you think there would be the methodology and overall design? And what do you think there would be the data analytic procedure, the key results or the conclusion, and then the implication for positive social change? Can I have a try? Here. Nanawag good ako yan na. This is just a try. Okay. Sige daw. Where is Nacy? Because she is in the office. Okay, sige. We have Ma'am Julian Saranilio. Can you have a try? Mr. Rodmar Panis, can we have a try? Dili ito niyo i-chat. Ano yung answer? Ma'am Elma, 1, 6, 5, 3, 4, and 2. Just a guess. Another one. Paray na iba. Oo. 1, 6, 3, 4. Here. 1, 6, 5, 3, 4, 2. Wala na mag-try. Okay. Sige. Let us proceed. Okay, here is it. Okay, yan. Go now to our next slide. Since no try, one shot here. Let me see. Okay. Okay. So, okay, here's the answer. So that would be the order of the presentation of the abstract. So what our number one, okay, it's there stated, and the number two, okay, number one will be our and then we have our RQ there. Okay, so we have here the illustration. Yeah. Okay, so this would be the illustration of our abstract. So number one would be our research problem and why is it important? And then number two, we have there the theoretical foundations. Actually, it's not the theoretical foundation that is stated there because that is a case study. That is the conceptual framework of the study being described. We have here a chart. Here we have an answer. Victor Plasavas 261,261,543. That's the answer. From Rodmar Panis 3,51642. Okay, so 3, then 5. It should be 6, Rodmar. 1, you got it right, and then 6, and then 4 and 2. Got it. And the last 2. And then Sir Victor, we have 2 first. And then marami na siya eh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nag-7 na si Sir Hector. Naglampas na siya. Okay. So that's it. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Panis, for the try. And we have Victor Plasabas. Thank you. And Ma'am Elma also. So we have it here, the answer. Okay, so we have number 5, the key results, conclusions, and recommendation. As mentioned before, you may have or you may write it in 2 to 3 sentences because you have to explain it really very well. And then we have 4, okay, a combination of methodology and overall design and the data analytic procedures. Okay, the coding is explained there. And then we have the implication is number 6. Now, this research is significant for educators, administrators, and parents who want Title I identify gifted tools to participate in a gifted classroom or in a gifted program. Okay, so that would an abstract would look like in a case study following the movements. Okay, following the movements. Okay, so that's it. You would notice the purpose of the study is part of the research question presented. Okay, here it would look like this. Daghang siya. Okay. Wait, I had a technical glitch. My PowerPoint hanged. Okay, here. Again, in the paper, in the actual paper, it will not be colored. That one is just for queuing. Okay, so just like that. Okay, for the purpose of the activity. Okay, so we're done with the movements. Now we proceed to yeah, here the overall thing that we need to consider: alignment along the logical progression from the problem, the research questions, methods, and of course the results. Okay, so that's it. Alignment along these areas. Okay, so some tips, some takeaways. We are now on the last part of our talk. Some form tips on the form and style tips. For one, keep the abstract concise, as explained before. Concise means uh, brief but comprehensive, complete. I don't know. Accurate, exact, and readable. Use correct English grammar, of course. I think I think before you submit, you have the Grammarly to check that one. You can also let your colleagues check that for a friendly checking, not only for grammar but at the same time for the content of your paper. You see, sharing of ideas would be good. Okay. Another takeaway, ensure each sentence adds value to the rest of the to the reader's understanding of the research. Okay. Okay, every sentence will give really an input or parang an additional information na sasabihin talaga niya, I will really read the paper from A to Z because ang ganda ng pagkakasabi, ang ganda ng pagkakagawa ng abstract. Parang the abstract would be a teaser, okay, after your title, parang a sort of, for me personally, parang you're the teaser for your readers to invite your paper from cover to cover or from A to Z, really. Okay, ensure each sentence adds up. I'm done with that. Okay, let's go. Use full name acronyms. Explained before, na-explain ko na yun. Have any acronym or abbreviation and include the acronym abbreviation in the parentheses. Stated already. You can thereafter uh, refer to the acronym or the abbreviation. Another takeaway here is abstract do not have paragraphs. Keep the next to one long paragraph with no indentation. Okay. But again, it will depend on the journal that you are, but most really one paragraph will, no indentation. Okay. Others even will give you what will be the font that you are going to use after the title, the font size. Again, it will vary on the journal that you are submitting. The journal will give you parang a specific style sheets wherein you can give what I mean, you can follow through as you write the paper. Let's proceed so that it's already 3:30. Let's proceed to the next. Do not include references or citation in your abstract. No citation that will be included in your abstract. No citation, please. Okay, per APA style, use numerals in the abstract, not written numbers, unless at the start of the sentence. So, uh, uh, in here, parang with the conventions of writing that when you write numbers, you are going to write 1 to 10 in spelled out, and then 11 up in figures. But in your abstract, unless it begins with the sentence, then it should be spelled out. But then throughout your abstract, figures or numerals in abstract should not be written out. Okay, so kung 1, 1, kung 2, 2, dito nagpupunta. Okay, so these are the takeaways. Another one here. Okay, how are we going to check the length of our abstract, ang kahilaba. So as I have mentioned before, it depends on the journal you are submitting. Others would have it 250. I have the experience of, I think it's in US. The in US has a certain gadget wherein when you prepare, when you submit the paper, there is already a parang automatic word count. Parang it will really tell you kung nagsubra na or what. Okay, so be sure that you are going to follow really with the uh, style sheets given to you by the journal. Okay, so that's it. Here, is the introductory portion of the abstract too wordy or too verbose? Uh, Masyado na siya hingka. So, anong tawag ito? Ang tawag natin dyan, marami nang sinasabi. Okay. This is often the case and should be the first part of the abstract examined for potential edits. So the first part. Okay. Okay, the other part here. Do the readers need to know this information? Okay. And then the abstract should contain the key high points. High points or in other books we call that one as what do you call that one? Lead sentences or the stem sentences that provide a precise and concise description of the study. Okay. Another one, of course, finally, when it comes to the length. Okay. So if sentences stems were used to organize the content and flow within the abstract, it is often possible to combine related elements into fewer sentences containing fewer words. So that is why other movements or other guidelines are combined, just like your, what do you call that? Just like the purpose of the study is combined with your research question. Excuse me. Okay, so we're done for the length. Again, the length would depend on the journal that you are considering for submission. Okay, some takeaways. Last few slides. The abstract is a window. Okay, here I show a window. I had mentioned this others into your research. Okay, takeaway. Take note of that. The abstract is intended as means for and the limited information found in parang your abstract would be the key word here is it's the concise portrait of your study. I like the term concise portrait of your study. Others would say a show window, it's an overview, but based on here, it's the portrait, the concise portrait of your study, including the key elements. Again, the key elements is 5. We have the research design, the data analysis, key results, conclusions, and of course, the implication. Implication is not just an ordinary implication, but implication for social change, as stated before. And then abstract should tell if others would say abstract would be the concise portrait, it will tell the story of your research paper from beginning to an end. Okay, and then it will also tell the applicability of their paper to them as reader. Okay, so next one. Of course, another takeaway before you submit your paper, consult the instruction to authors in the web page before you submit. Okay. Before you submit your paper, web page of the journal to which you plan to submit your article for any journal specific instructions. Okay. Again, the writing of your abstract will depend on the paper that you are writing, as mentioned before, and then also with the kind of journal that you are submitting. Okay. Okay. Do not take note, sabi ko kanina, do not exceed the words. Okay? Baka magsobra-sobra ka na. Do not exceed or abstract words of the journal to which you are submitting your article. These are just few tips or a little takeaway. Okay? Okay, here. Readers frequently decide on the basis of the abstract whether to read the entire article or not. Yun ang sinasabi ko po kanina. So as they get hold of your paper, okay, once they read the title and your abstract, parang it would give them the cue. They will be interested to read your paper. Then it depends on how you write your abstract. So your abstract will decide, or will give the decision, I mean, to the reader if they're going to read your paper thoroughly or what. Abstract pa lang, maganda na, then complete na siya, accurate, then coherent and logical and readable with the complete information. Then no doubt your readers will read your paper from A to C. And that, if they read that, especially if they are researchers, then you will be cited now. So that's it. So I hope I have shared with you something for this afternoon on how are we going to write abstract. We go back to our outline. So number one, we have the definition based on the different authorities, and we say that abstract is the brief yet comprehensive presentation of your paper. So I have given around three. And then we have the characteristics of good abstract. So we have keywords mentioned like concise, should be coherent and readable. Okay, it should be accurate. Okay, and then I have also presented the description of or what are the things that you need to look into your abstract depending on your paper. If you are writing an empirical study, it's different. The things to be included in your abstract would be different. If that is methodological, if that is theory, building theory grounded study, okay, or if that is a case study. And then I have also presented with the movements, general movements, and I have presented 9. Other book will have 5. Okay, so I have presented 9. So from the problem up to the implications for social change. And then we have the how are we going to check the length? How are we going to what are the things that we need to consider in submitting our abstract. Okay, so that would be for this afternoon. Thank you so much. I hope I have imparted something for this talk. Salamat. So you can email me at the email addresses presented on the slide. And then you can refer, as you can see, each slide has the reference for you to refer and for you to check into. Okay. So, okay. I am happy that I was able to share something or impart to you this afternoon. Damang salamat. Thank you po.
And that was once again Dr. Redendor Palencia, Director for Somers State University Publications. Thank you so much, Dr. Palencia, for
For
the and jam-packed lecture. I'm sure viewers listened well and have prepared questions to be answered by, of course, our lecturer. Please take note that we will only accommodate 5 questions from the audience. In a few minutes, we will be uploading the Google form for attendance here at our Zoom chat box. To the presenters, please do not forget to fill up the attendance form. Furthermore, the session evaluation quiz and the activities given by our speaker will be sent to you later via email.
No need to worry with no need to worry with the reference because each slide has the reference. You can you can what? You can refer it immediately para wala nang tanong, punta na lang doon. Punta na lang sa reference.
Yes, thank you, sir. All right, we are waiting for your questions, our participants. So while waiting, you would like
We
to
have
acknowledge. Yes, sir. Go answer.
we have I would like to acknowledge my students in the doctorate degree and the master's degree who attended. Thank you so much and for thank you.
Thank you, sir. We would also like to acknowledge the presence of our Samar State University President, Dr. Marilyn D. Cardoso. We're also joined by the Editor-in-Chief of the Countryside Development Research Journal,
Yes,
Dr. Theo Labrague, and the External
Theodora
Associate
Labra.
Editor of Journal of Academic Research, Dr. Mark Abadiano.
I would like to take this platform to express my special acknowledgement to the editor-in-chief of the Countryside Development Research Journal, CDRJ. Thank you so much for your services to Samar State University and for the help. Damo po nga salamat, Dr. Labrague, for that show of service to SSU, especially for our technical publications, the CDRJ.
To our participants and viewers, we are still waiting for your questions.
Yeah. Dr. Labrague would like to share something related abstract and keywords. Yeah. Okay, we give the floor. We acknowledge you, Dr. Labrague. Dr. Labrague would like to share something about the abstract keywords, just brief down. Okay. Sige po, Dr. Labrague.
Good afternoon po, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you po.
Okay. Actually, your discussion is very, very comprehensive. It was a very informative and complete. Although I'll just give some few points based on my experience in publishing and reviewing some papers. Yeah. You know, abstract, just like title and keywords, are marketing tools of publishing companies. Dito sila kumikita especially for publishers which are ISI or Scopus Index Journal. Usually, these journals, before you can completely download their article, you have to pay. And the first thing that you can see before you read the entire paper is the abstract, the title, the abstract, and the keywords. As I mentioned earlier, as a marketing tool, if the abstract, along with the title and the keywords, are not attractive, it cannot capture, the entirety of the paper. As a researcher, I will not download it. I will not pay. Usually, ISI, you need to pay before you can download their abstract. So, what tip can I give to those who are, willing to submit their paper in ISI or Scopus? Just before you craft or formulate your abstract, it is very important that you identify first which journal you are sending your paper. Okay? Although abstract, in general, it has a standard format, the IMRAD. However, journals also have their own format or style of presenting their abstract. And it is very, very important that before you formulate your abstract, try to check the journal. What is the style of their abstract before you completely formulate your abstract? Now, on the reviewers and editors' perspective, abstract is very important. For researchers, this is the first thing that they need to read, including also editors and reviewers. I have some experiences wherein the paper is really good. The research findings, the results are very good, but the abstract is poorly written. In some instances, the editor would not waste their time spending time to send this paper for review. That is how important abstract is. Now, another important point, because I do not know if it will be discussed on the next session or not. Okay, another important element that you should formulate well are the keywords. Although it is not part of the abstract, but you would notice after the abstract, you would see keywords. This is very, very important. Again, keywords are marketing tools. If your keywords are not, formulated well, no one will be able to discover your work. Remember, with the technology that we have now, researchers would go to Google Scholar, would go to Scopus, and try to type the keywords. Now, if your article, even if it's really good, but the keywords that you have entered in your article do not reflect much with your paper will not be cited. That's why it's very, very important that keywords, should reflect the content of your paper. Now, if the keywords are well formulated, technically the researchers and the readers would easily identify your article in the Google Scholar or other databases. What is the implication of that? If the researchers or the readers can easily find your article, that means your paper can be cited easily. That is how important keywords are. That's it, Dr. Palencia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Laubrage, for your additional information and helpful tips. Since we didn't get any question from the audience, we would like to thank you, everyone, for joining us. And that ends our webinar session for today. Our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Redentor Palencia, Director for Summer State University Publications, for imparting his valuable ideas and expertise in the field of research and journal publication. We also thank the lead facilitators of this webinar series, Summer State University's Office of the Vice President for Research and Extension Services through the university publications. And finally, we thank our viewers and participants. Thank you for joining us. Again, we will email you the links of the session evaluation, quiz, and the presentations of today's lecture. And do not forget to fill up the attendance form uploaded here in the Zoom chat box. Please check. And our next session will be on July 1, this Wednesday, on the subject of revising formats of journal article for publication. See you again, and thank you so much.